Hello, Boxa1 here, and LEGO is a company that really likes remaking sets and making new, interesting ones. And one of the ones I've always been interested in are the LEGO Pod Racers from Star Wars theme. Now, they started off in 1999 with this one, and, well, it's not as good as the later one, which is kind of a remake of it, the 2020 version, or 2019 actually. Then there was the latest, which is this 2024 gift with purchase exclusive thing. But obviously, some look better than others, such as this one, which barely resembles a pod racer. But I've always liked pod racers, and I've never had a chance to actually get my hands on one. But I decided I wanted to make my own custom pod racer inspired ship. So what I did is that I got out my pieces, these big buckets full that I have collected over the past year and a half, I'd say, maybe 2 years. And then I actually made a drawing of what I wanted the MOC to be, and you'll see it in a second here. I think it's a pretty good little sketch, and I think it turned out quite a bit like how the actual one looks like. And you can see right there, very nice. But next, it was time that I had to actually pick out the colors for this, and eventually I managed to narrow it down to this color scheme of white, red, gray, and black, because I have a bunch of that, and I think it will go quite nicely. Also, the main reason I chose it is because, of course, I have a bunch of it, and I don't really see that color scheme on a lot of pod racers or spaceships in general, either in Star Wars or out of it. So I just thought that would be an interesting color scheme to use. And with the pieces picked out in this color scheme, I decided to make the bottom, first of all, using this weird little snot technique at the back over some boat or airplane hulls there. And that way I could attach this weird piece on the back that I created using some curved pieces, and I think that lines up pretty good with the bottom. It does have a little gap, but I think overall it works as a pretty good design. And here I added a lot more detail, some curved parts on the top, have the actual handlebars and everything, as well as some nice tiling, as well as some just overall nice shaping. Now I started working on the engine using this interesting technique with a little pin with, not axle, but little bar on the end to place an antenna in the engine and make it slightly elongated. Then I put two engines on either side of it, and, well, I guess I called it a day for this little ship build, which I think turned out pretty good. And you can see that. With that done, we could move on to the main engine. I wanted to choose a couple of pieces that I really needed to use on the actual ship, and I chose these, some pneumatic tubing, some these weird tail pieces from a battle pack, Assassin's Droid battle pack, and some dark gray antennas, which went pretty good in it. But here, I actually have some segments built, and you can see some of the pieces I kind of used for it, and you can see how I assembled those. And I just have a massive spread of things to build this engine. Now, assembling those pieces, we can have this nice ring, which has 16 segments interlocked with some hinges and stuff like that. And you can see how that lines up on the drawing there, and I think it looks quite nice, actually. You see the scaling as well, which I think is not too bad. And I started adding more pieces onto either side, mainly being a bunch of support pieces as well as some snot pieces to really give it some shaping, as well as just some ability to build on the sides of it. You can see some of the pieces I use here. And then here I sorted out some plates and sloped, or not sloped, but angled bricks. And I have this very nice mechanism to kind of base it inward. Adding the first layer, you can see how that interlocks and gives it a slightly inward slanting look. Building it up a bit more, we have a very nice looking look. You can see there are some weirdly colored bricks on the inside, but those get mainly covered up. Finally, the tallest it'll go, and it is misaligned, but it will be fixed in the future. And here we go. Added some tiles as well as some grill pieces onto the side. This is the first layer of greebling I'm going to add. It's still misaligned at this point, but right now you can see how I fixed that with all this more greebling, some engines on either side, which I'll talk about later in this non-voiceover portion coming up. But we have a lot of greebling, and you can see how I used hinges to align everything right there. You can see the hinges on all of these, totaling, I think, 32 hinges total, which is kind of crazy. Also, you can see how I'm going to attach the pod to the inside and how those little arm things are going to hold up. And I think they're actually quite sturdy. And that is how they're attached. Just some inside pieces there, and it'll look pretty good. Now, you'll be able to see this very shortly. There we go. And this is it laid correctly, and it looks quite nice. And it is actual me here with this instead of voiceover me, of which I actually did a voiceover for this one. This is the first time I've really done a voiceover for a video, which is kind of cool. And I think I don't know how it turned out yet because, well, that's future me. But I do know how this turned out, and I think it turned out pretty accurate to my drawing here. Pretty good. I actually quite liked how it turned out. It does look like a jumbled mess, but that's kind of what prod racers are supposed to look like. Plus, I didn't have all the right color pieces, but I think it did turn out quite nice. And if I were to change one thing about it, it would be that I think these are a bit too short, because they're a bit close to that engine there. But I did add this little cone on the front, which I think looks quite good, as you can see. I just couldn't show it back in the kind of voiceover portion because, well, I couldn't stand it up as well. But we do have a pretty nice little model here, and you can see it does use some weirdly colored pieces on the inside and on the bottom specifically, not on the top inside, but on the bottom inside, because you don't really see that, and you probably won't see it. But you can see a lot of pieces used, and I think the thing that really surprised me was just how many hinges I have. I mean, it used like each one of these to go around the whole thing. That's over 32 hinges, and then so is it there, and then again right there, which means I had a lot of hinges that were used in this. That was probably the most used piece besides plates, obviously, and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I was most worried about running out of in the short term or long term. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. I think I can probably fit a figure in there. I may need to put a little extra seating in there. But I do want to go over just some quick little things, such as these little snake tails type things that go on the, I forget what, it's a little Assassin Droid battle pack. I have some pieces to it, but don't have the full set, just have those cool little tails that I wanted to use in there. Or whatever you'd call those pieces, spikes. But yeah, I quite like how this turned out. This is probably the biggest MOC I've ever created. Definitely the biggest MOC I've ever created. Well over, I'd say probably around 1,000 pieces in this thing. And I do think it turned out quite nice. But that's basically it for this video. I know it's not a crazy long video or a crazy insane video, but I did spend a lot of time on this video, let's just say. An entire, probably half day or more of just recording and building, and then I think another little while on voiceover, which I haven't done yet, so I don't know how long that's going to take. Probably not too long, but I do have the timings and everything. One thing I did want to show, I showed it in that voiceover segment, but this engine piece is actually pretty cool. I got a good, like, 3 of them, actually. 2 for the Plo Koon's Starfighter, not Microfighter, that just came out. But and then another extra one in the recent haul, which enabled me to do this. Also, these are pretty cool pieces, these antenna pieces, which you saw how I attached that in with that weird little piece in there. But I guess that is it. One thing I will say, I may make a little stand for this thing if you want to see that. I think that would be kind of an interesting small short or video that I could do after this. And I do hope you enjoyed. I shall see you next time with another interesting video, hopefully. Goodbye.